Have you ever felt stuck? Like your life is on pause while everyone else's is moving forward? Maybe you're waiting for a job opportunity, a relationship to heal, a health issue to resolve, or a dream that seems to have died. Today, I want to talk about one of the most powerful stories of waiting in the Bible, Joseph's prison years. This isn't just a story about waiting. It's a story about waiting well, about maintaining faith, character, and purpose when everything seems lost. Joseph's story teaches us that some of life's greatest preparation happens in our darkest seasons, and that God is still at work even when everything around us seems to have fallen apart. Let's set the scene and understand how Joseph ended up in this desperate situation. Joseph was his father's favorite son, given a special coat of many colors, blessed with prophetic dreams showing he'd one day be great. His dreams revealed that even his own family would one day bow down to him. But his jealous brothers couldn't stand his father's favoritism or his dreams of greatness, so they plotted against him. They sold him into slavery, and he ended up in Egypt, far from home, far from everything he knew, serving in the house of an Egyptian official named Potiphar. Can you imagine the trauma, the confusion, the sense of betrayal? Everything Joseph knew was stripped away in a moment. But here's what's remarkable: Joseph didn't give up. Despite being a slave in a foreign land, he worked with such integrity and excellence that he rose to manage Potiphar's entire household. Genesis tells us that the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in everything he did. Things were finally looking up. Joseph had proven that even in slavery, character and hard work could create opportunity. He had every reason to believe his circumstances were improving, that maybe, just maybe, God was beginning to restore what had been stolen from him. Until one day, everything came crashing down again. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph repeatedly, and when he refused her advances and fled from her, she falsely accused him of attempting to assault her. In one moment, everything Joseph had rebuilt through years of faithful service was destroyed by a lie. Genesis 39-20 tells us that Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. Think about the injustice of this moment. Joseph had already lost his family, his freedom, his country, and his identity as a beloved son. Now he lost his reputation too. He was thrown into an Egyptian dungeon for a crime he didn't commit, with no trial, no defense, no chance to prove his innocence. This wasn't just any prison, this was a royal prison, likely underground, dark, and designed to hold the most serious offenders. And here's what's truly crushing. Joseph would spend approximately 13 years total in slavery and prison combined, with 2 to 3 years specifically languishing in that dark prison cell. 2 to 3 years of his life gone, locked away for doing the right thing. Imagine what must have gone through Joseph's mind during those long, dark nights. Those dreams God gave him as a 17-year-old boy, where his brothers and even the sun, moon, and stars would bow to him, must have seemed like cruel jokes now. Every promise seemed broken. Every hope seemed dead. He could have become bitter, rehearsing the injustices over and over. He could have questioned God's goodness, wondering why righteousness led to more suffering. He could have concluded that integrity doesn't pay, that doing the right thing is worthless, that his gifts and dreams meant nothing in the real world. He could have given up on being a good person, since being good had only brought him more pain. The prison years are where most dreams die. Not because of one dramatic failure, but because of slow, grinding erosion. It's not the storm that kills the tree. It's the relentless wind, day after day, wearing it down. Day after day of nothing changing. Week after week of being forgotten by everyone who once knew you. Month after month of injustice with no resolution, no vindication, no rescue. The prison years test whether our faith is real or just something we believe when life is comfortable. This is where many of us are right now, in some version of prison. Maybe not literal bars and chains, but circumstances that feel like a cage. A job you hate but can't leave. A relationship that's broken but you can't fix. A health condition that won't improve. A financial situation that feels hopeless. A calling you know you have but can't seem to step into. And the question pressing on your heart isn't just, can I survive this? But, can I survive this without losing who I am? Without becoming bitter, cynical, hard, or giving up on the goodness of God? So how did Joseph do it? How did he wait without giving up? How did he endure years of injustice without becoming unjust himself? How did he maintain hope when every circumstance screamed hopelessness? The Bible gives us several powerful principles from Joseph's life that can transform how we handle our own waiting seasons. First, and perhaps most importantly, Joseph maintained his integrity even when no one important was watching. Genesis 39-21 says something beautiful. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Even in prison, God's presence was with him. Joseph wasn't abandoned, even though it felt like it. And here's Joseph's response. He didn't become bitter or careless. Verse 22 tells us that the prison warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners and everything that was done there. The warden had such confidence in Joseph that he didn't even supervise him. Think about that for a moment. Joseph could have done the absolute minimum. He could have said, "Why should I work hard? Why should I be trustworthy? Look where integrity got me falsely accused and locked up." Who would blame him for becoming cynical or lazy? But Joseph kept showing up every single day with excellence. He kept managing well, leading well, serving well, even when the audience was just prisoners and a warden. He understood something crucial that most of us miss. Your character isn't defined by your circumstances, it's revealed by them. Anyone can have integrity when life is good, when people are watching, when there are rewards and recognition. But who are you when life is unfair? Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there's no immediate payoff for doing right? Joseph chose to be faithful in the small things, in the hidden things, even when no one noticed. He was building a foundation of character that would one day hold the weight of a nation. Second, Joseph used his gifts to serve others, not just himself. In Genesis 40, two of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, offended the king, and were thrown into the same prison where Joseph was confined. These were powerful men who had fallen from grace, just like Joseph. One morning, Joseph noticed they both looked distressed, and he asked them, "Why are your faces downcast today?" They told him they'd both had dreams, but there was no one to interpret them. Now, pause here. Joseph is in prison for doing the right thing. He has every reason to be focused on his own problems, his own pain, his own survival. He could have walked past these men and thought, "I've got my own troubles. Why should I care about theirs?" But instead, he looked beyond his own suffering to notice someone else's distress. When you're suffering, it's completely natural to become self-focused, to be consumed by your own pain. But Joseph looked beyond his chains to serve others. He said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." Joseph used his God-given gift of dream interpretation not for personal gain or to manipulate these powerful men, but simply to bring clarity and comfort to fellow prisoners. He interpreted the cupbearer's dream favorably. He would be restored to his position in 3 days. He interpreted the baker's dream honestly, but tragically he would be executed in 3 days. Both interpretations came true exactly as Joseph said. This is transformative and counterintuitive. Purpose isn't found by escaping your prison, it's found by serving within it. You don't have to wait until your circumstances change to make a difference. You can be faithful right where you are, even if where you are feels like a dead end. Third, Joseph held on to hope, but he also took practical action. After interpreting the cupbearer's dream favorably, Joseph makes a vulnerable request in Genesis 42:14. He says, "Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit." Some people criticize Joseph here, saying he lacked faith by asking for human help instead of trusting God completely. I completely disagree with that interpretation. Joseph prayed and he also knocked on doors. He trusted God and he also advocated for himself. Faith isn't passive resignation where you sit back and do nothing. Faith is active trust, where you do everything you can and trust God with what you can't control. Joseph asked for help. He spoke up about his injustice. He created an opportunity for change. There's no spiritual virtue in suffering silently when there are legitimate, ethical avenues for change. But here's the heartbreaking part that many people forget. Genesis 42:23 says, "Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." Can you imagine? Joseph had just given this man the good news that saved his life. The cupbearer was restored to Pharaoh's service exactly as Joseph predicted. He was back in the palace, back in power, back to his old life. And he forgot Joseph completely. Joseph must have counted the days after the cupbearer left. 1 week, maybe he's settling back in. 2 weeks, maybe he's waiting for the right moment. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. 2 more years would pass before the cupbearer remembered. 2 more years of waking up in that cell after experiencing a glimmer of hope. 2 more years of wondering if he'd been forgotten forever. Have you ever had that experience, where you thought your breakthrough was finally coming, and then nothing happened? That might be where you are right now, in the 2 more years after the promise seemed so close. But then, in God's perfect timing, everything changed in a single day. Pharaoh had 2 disturbing dreams that none of his magicians or wise men could interpret. Suddenly, finally, the cupbearer's memory was jogged, and he remembered the Hebrew prisoner who had accurately interpreted his dream years ago. He told Pharaoh about Joseph. Within hours, just hours, Joseph went from forgotten prisoner to Prime Minister of Egypt. Genesis 41:14 says, "They rushed him from the dungeon. He shaved and changed his clothes, and stood before Pharaoh." Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, revealing that 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of devastating famine, and he proposed a plan to save Egypt. Pharaoh was so impressed that he said in Genesis 41:41, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." At age 30, Joseph stood second only to Pharaoh himself, wearing royal robes and the king's signet ring, riding in a chariot, with all Egypt bowing before him. And here's what's absolutely stunning: when you step back and look at the full picture, everything Joseph endured in prison prepared him for this moment. It wasn't wasted time. It was preparation time. The administrative skills he developed managing Potiphar's house and then managing the prison. He now used those exact skills to manage the entire nation of Egypt, organizing the collection and distribution of grain on a scale never attempted before. The character that was forged in the fire of suffering and injustice. He would desperately need that strength to navigate power without becoming corrupt, to handle wealth without becoming selfish, to wield authority without becoming cruel like those who had authority over him. The ability to interpret dreams that he used to serve fellow prisoners. That gift saved not just Egypt, but the entire known world from starvation, including his own family back in Canaan. And perhaps most importantly, the years of suffering gave Joseph a perspective and compassion he never would have had. When his brothers eventually came to Egypt, desperate for food, and bowed before him, fulfilling those dreams from decades earlier, Joseph had the grace to forgive them instead of seeking revenge. Those prison years weren't wasted years. They were preparation years. The dungeon didn't destroy Joseph's purpose. It refined it like gold in fire. God didn't waste a single moment of Joseph's pain. Every injustice, every delay, every dark night was being woven into a story of redemption that would save nations. What Joseph meant for evil, God was using for good, even when Joseph couldn't see it. And here's what I want you to hear today. God is doing the same thing in your waiting season. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's preparing you for something your current perspective can't even imagine. So what does this mean for you today, right now, in your season of waiting? Let me give you 4 practical applications to take with you. First, keep showing up with integrity, even when it feels pointless. Your character in the waiting room determines your capacity in the breakthrough. The person you're becoming in the prison is the person who will walk into the palace. Don't let disappointment make you careless. Don't let bitterness make you lazy. Don't let injustice make you unjust. Do the right thing even when no one's watching, even when there's no immediate reward, because you're building a foundation that will one day hold more weight than you can imagine. Second, serve where you are with the gifts you have. Don't wait until you're out of prison to use your gifts and fulfill your purpose. Don't put your life on hold until circumstances change. Your current season, however limiting or frustrating, still has people in it who need exactly what you have to offer. There are cupbearers and bakers in your prison who need your encouragement, your wisdom, your kindness, your gifts. Purpose isn't found in the palace, it's found in faithfulness, wherever you are. Third, hold on to hope while taking practical steps. This is the balance Joseph shows us. Pray, but also knock on doors. Trust God, but also send the resume. Have the difficult conversation, seek the counseling, make the phone call, ask for help. Faith and action aren't opposites, they're partners. Do everything you can do, and trust God with everything you can't do. And when the cupbearer forgets you, when the door you thought would open stays closed, don't lose hope. Your timing and God's timing are often different, but His timing is always perfect, even when it's painful. Finally, trust the timing and the process. This might be the hardest one. Joseph couldn't see it while he was in prison, but God was orchestrating events across an entire nation, positioning him for a purpose bigger than personal comfort. Every no was protecting you from something. Every delay was developing something in you. Every closed door was redirecting you to the right door. Your delay is not God's denial. He's working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see, connecting dots you don't even know exist, preparing you for assignments you haven't even imagined. The prison isn't punishment, it's preparation. If you're in a prison season right now, whether literal or metaphorical, I want you to hear this clearly. Don't give up. Your story isn't over. It might feel like the final chapter, but God is still writing. The same God who was with Joseph in the dungeon is with you in your darkness. The same God who remembered Joseph after years of waiting remembers you right now. And just as Joseph's prison years became the very pathway to his purpose, your waiting season may be the exact thing preparing you for your breakthrough. What feels like a detour is actually the route. What feels like a delay is actually development. What feels like a death is actually a seed being planted for future harvest. Wait well, serve faithfully, hope actively, maintain your integrity, use your gifts, take practical steps. Trust the timing. Your prison has a purpose, and your purpose has a timeline. Keep believing, keep serving, keep trusting. Your moment is coming. And when it comes, you'll look back and see that not one day was wasted, not one tear was meaningless, not one prayer went unheard. Your story will be a testimony that encourages someone else in their prison years. So hold on. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Amen. If you want to receive your blessings instantly, I have a secret video in my YouTube profile bio.